So when I was a child, there were a couple of TV programs that I was really attracted to. And in my tender adolescent years, there was this amazing thing that I think I probably first discovered it on public TV called Monty Python's Flying Circus. At first I thought it was literally a circus of flying things, and so I thought, well, I'm into flight, that would be kind of interesting. And little did I know that it was a bunch of absolutely insane British men doing really crazy things. It wasn't exactly situational comedy, the sitcoms that I was used to watching. There was nothing like it on TV at all, and I immediately fell in love with it. Also, of course, it helps if you have an adolescent sense of humor, because here were grown adult men, but not mature men, just adults, acting rather crazy. I got a lot of the humor, and then some of the humor I thought, well, maybe it's just British. Then I grew up, and I got a lot more of the humor and realized that it wasn't just British humor that I was enjoying, but it was kind of this ability to take a look at the universe through not rose-colored glasses, but glasses that are paisley and they rotate, that they constantly change. So I was rather delighted when many years later, I discovered that they were working on a production called Spamalot. Of course, I thought it was a misprint, and I had already seen Camelot. As a matter of fact, Camelot was the first Broadway musical I ever saw, so I had a great affection for King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, especially as seen through the glitz of the Broadway lens, and Arthur and Guinevere and the dashing Lancelot and all that kind of stuff. And Spamalot I didn't quite understand until, of course, the word, I think Eric Idle might have been a name that was connected right at the very beginning, and with that, of course, the whole milieu of Monty Python. I saw it when it first was presented, and I got a chance to see it both in London and New York, and I loved it. I just thought it was amazing. Of course, by then I had discovered that it was a musicalized version of one of my favorite bizarre movies called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And it really, the musical really is the movie, except it's a little classier. The movie has no class, and it's available on YouTube. You could rent a DVD of it, but it's very funny. But compared to blockbuster movies that we get out of Hollywood, I think the total budget was probably $29.35, 45 cents, maybe. I won't quibble over the pennies, but I don't think they spent a thing with that film. And of course, that's what made it so utterly charming, because it was all about imagination. The Broadway musical, I thought perhaps was a little bit overproduced. Of course, I always think of that way because I'm as tight as the Monty Pythoners. Matter of fact, I identify with Monty Python a lot. My sense of humor is a little bit warped. It's certainly filled with farcical kinds of things. I do think that life basically has a very bright side. And when I first saw the film, the song that just could not get out of my head was always "Look on the Bright Side of Life," because I felt that's basically my philosophy. And that's what this musical is about. It's about looking on the bright side of life, and just looking at life through an odd lens entirely. It's a little bit difficult to do a show like this in Highland Summer Theatre because, as most of you probably realize, the summer stock theatre is a situation in which we do things very quickly. So how do you do things quickly? Well, you assemble an amazing cast, an amazing company, and we have some of the usual suspects here at MSU Mankato, in that Steve Smith will be doing our lighting design, and it will be spectacular. Not only is it a Broadway design, but it's also a movie design, and it's also a disco design. There's some disco in there, and it's like a rock concert. As a matter of fact, when I look at it, I think Prince, but not Prince Charming. I think Prince, the artist formerly known as, and there are those kinds of aspects. Catherine Schmiel-Swope will be doing our costume designs, although we're cheating a little bit because some of those costumes are so iconic. The King Arthur that you're going to see on our stage looks exactly like the King Arthur that was in Spamalot, and so does Lancelot, and so does Sir Bedivere and Sir Galahad, and all that crowd will look very similar to what you saw. There are other kinds of things in the show that, things that you'd expect, like the Lady of the Lake, who will look charming and amazing, played by Caitlin Dahlquist, by the way. And then she has a group of people called the Laker Girls. because what else would the Lady of the Lake have but Laker girls? And they kind of look like a football cheerleading team at times, and then other things. But let me get back to the production. John Paul is designing the set, and it's Spamalot. You have to have a castle. And we have a huge castle, a castle that's way too big for a summer stock situation, with turrets and all kinds of things. Our sound design is by George Grubb, and that's going to be great fun. Of course, it's a big musical, so we'll have lots of music. And then the one interesting aspect of design that is extraordinary is, like the movie and like every single episode that I ever saw of The Flying Circus, you can't do it without a little homage to a guy by the name of Terry Gilliam, who does these amazing kind of cartoons that animations that were very different than anything else. Of course, now we've seen The Simpsons and we've seen other kinds of animations. I basically grew up on Disney, and the first time that I saw a Terry Gilliam, again, I thought, what did this cost? $1.98 to do this? Did he just take things and cut them out of magazines and then make wings fly? And then, of course, you realize that it's a very artistic flair. One of our very own alums, Chris Kind, who has acted for us many times in Highland Summer Theatre and is currently in New York. Back in the day when Chris Kind was here, he used to do these animations for our annual gala, and they were a hoot, and they were somewhat Terry Gilliam-esque. Not so much in execution, but the mind. Chris's mind is as bizarre as Terry Gilliam's. And so I called him up a couple months ago, and I said, would you be interested in doing this? And he said yes. And so we have these original animations that are very similar to and inspired by the original. So just the kind that you would see in the movie. There's a huge screen that drops down over the entire castle of Camelot, and then we show these animations. So that's a design aspect that's really fun. I've already mentioned Caitlin Dahlquist as Our Lady of the Lake. Have to mention her first because she's one of the only females. She's actually the diva of the show with a capital D, and the part is written that way. In reality, she's a wonderful person, but boy, does she sing like a diva, and she acts like a diva, and that's going to be great fun. King Arthur is Reginald D. Haney, and Reggie has had a couple of leading roles for us before. Recently he was seen in Legally Blonde. He was one of my principal actors in The Mandrake, so he's had both classical training and musical theater training. He was in Phantom of the Opera. He's had some really nice roles, but this is one of the first big leading roles in a musical here at MSU, and so he'll be playing the beloved King Arthur. King Arthur has a wonderful group of knights. I can't mention all of them, but I will mention that he has a squire. The squire's name is Patsy, and that'll be played by Carter Allen. Now, this is a gentleman that you will recognize if you can see him. He weighs about 10 pounds and is very small and skinny and tall, and is a brilliant actor. As a matter of fact, he's one of the award-winning actors from the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. Even though his specialty is not musical theater, he was acclaimed the second best musical theater performer in the entire region. And why? Mainly because of his comic skills. One of his latest roles he was in Avenue Q last summer, and was astonishing with his puppetry work in that show. This time he's kind of like a big puppet all by himself. He's just a huge puppet. And what's interesting is Reggie and Caitlin both play one role, more or less. Carter, like all the other knights, play multiple roles. So Carter not only plays the role of Patsy, but he also plays a mayor in some unnamed town in Finland, which is to die for. It's very funny. And I won't give it away. I'll just say that they're very much into fish. I think it's herring. I'm not sure. And then Jake McInerney is playing Lancelot, and he gets to play a lot of the John Cleese roles. He plays the Frenchman who single-handedly defies and defiles King Arthur and the Round Table, the Knights of the Round Table. He plays the enchanter Tim. He plays, and I'll just say the knights who say, and all of you Monty Python knights can fill in the last word of that because I can't say it. The camera might shatter. So he's in it. One of our up-and-coming actors who was around last year, Ben Stastny, going from his freshman to sophomore year, where he was in several shows, including Avenue Q last year. He also was in The Sound of Music. This year he comes back. He'll be playing Sir Robin, and Sir Robin is one of the knights who He's heroic in a way, except he's a coward. His real heroism is that what he really loves is musical theater, which I think can be a very scary thing. For him, that's where his courage lies. So he plays one of the other knights. We have there's Devon, who plays Sir Galahad, and many other roles. And then there's Andy, and then there's Sam Stahl. There's all kinds of people that are going to be in the show. Almost too many to mention. It's a big musical, and we're doing it upright. Big music, big sets, big costumes, big lights, big sound, big cartoons, big laughs. If you like subtle theater, I would not recommend this. This is not recommended for the faint of heart. Also, of course, the only challenge with the show is you could possibly die laughing. So stand warned. We hope to see you at Spamalot. We open on July the 11th and can't wait to see you in the theater.